Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. My name is Keith Riddle here, as always, with Jordan Tampien. And today is St. Patrick's Day.
I know. So excited. My daughter dressed me today. She said, Dad, you can't leave. I always wear my gray. And I walk in the office, everybody's like, Jordan, one time, just wear green. Didn't even think about it.
Do you not normally wear green?
I just don't think about it.
Are you Irish at all?
Oh. No. But it's not even about being Irish. Normally it is. But my daughter is super into St. Patty's Day. She might argue it's one of her favorite holidays.
I would be like, so if I had to rank them, I would say I would go 4th of July and then St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty close. And then, so every year Whitney's hosted like a St. Patty's Day party. It's always been like that and Halloween are the two, I think, if those two chose them. So she's like, Dad, you can't leave without this. So she got me necklace.
I think for kids, it's the costumes, right?
Oh, it's costumes. She still thinks a leprechaun's racing through her house.
Well, and they
if
like
you listen
reasons.
to the slogan, it did this morning. So I'll just let you know.
Well, it's a reason to dress up.
Yeah.
Right, and be festive. Like I'm not saying you can't dress up on Christmas, but you might be a little weird if you did, or like people, you know, if you
costume orientation to it, right?
Costume orientation, but like Halloween and St. Patrick's Day, it's like acceptable to dress up and wear goofy outfits.
Encouraged even.
Yes,
go for it. Yeah,
correct.
she walked out the door. I'm like, never mind. Yep, you're going in that. Just love it. So
nice. I guess I'm Irish. Like I'm at least half Irish, maybe more. I have to do the math every time, but like German Irish is my heritage, and so I think I just make the assumption that everyone is Irish. So like I don't.
Everybody celebrates it like they're Irish though, so it's almost like a win that way.
So I'm always like, wait a minute, what? But yeah, I mean, I was up till about 10 o'clock last night building a humongous House of Cards goofy hat for my daughter. For her school does a parade every year on St. Patrick's Day.
That's awesome.
And they judge the hats.
Okay.
So it's been a couple years since she had like what I would call like a contender. She won it, I think, in like 3rd grade. She won Crazy Hat Day. But you know, she's in 7th grade now, so we're on a 4-year dry streak. You know, Matt, you know, if we've placed, you know,
you had to
like
step up your game on this one, huh?
Yeah. So my wife's the creative. You know, she came up with the ideas, and then last night, me and Charlie built the. You know, I'm the I guess I'm the builder.
The engineer.
The
Makes
engineer.
sense.
You know. But yeah, built like a 4.5, 5 foot tall hat out of cards.
I mean, the things we do.
The things
we do. It's funny, and then she'll remember them. I mean, Logan remembers all of that stuff. And then she remembers like the building of so she builds these leprechaun traps. She remembers the building of the traps. Doesn't remember because obviously it's never caught a leprechaun, but but we spend hours building them. That's where I get excited, like trying to build traps. I think I would have been really good at designing.
Those are the
traps.
moments though, right? Like that's what I have to remind myself every year of, like those are the moments of like being a parent that you like think back on, or as a kid, right? It's always those things of like, I go through the, all the phases when you're going through the process. So first there's kind of like the annoyance phase before we've started. Like I hear the girls talking about it and I'm like, oh, they're doing the hat thing again. That means I'm going to have to like, you know, participate and get tools out and hot glue guns and all this stuff. But then there's the excitement I see in my daughter's face and the whole process of like starting to put it together. And then you get into it, right? Then you go into like the zone mode, or at least I do, like where we're giggling and laughing and trying to like, oh no, put that here or do this or do that. And then like by the end of it, I find like myself reverting back. Like last night between like 9:30 and 10, I was like, just glue them together. Like stop screwing around.
Get it done.
Let's go.
Mine is I just get in, I want to get it done. And then to your point, though, sometimes you don't ever want to gloss over the joy they have in the
process,
designing
right?
and the building. Yeah. So now I slow way down.
Yeah.
It's fun. I enjoy it. And then it's funny, like the creative things. I don't think we give young kids enough credit for their ideas. Like some of the ideas she'll come with, I'm like, that's actually a really good idea. Nice job. But if I would just rush through and built what I thought I should have been, you miss so many things. Kind of like a good little lesson in life.
I always have to remind myself, like I was doing my wife and her were kind of, I could tell were like, they were getting a little like, you know, not argumentative, but like a little, my wife was trying to do stuff and my daughter, I could just tell she wanted to do it her way type thing. So like I'm always trying to keep that in the back of my mind. It's like, it's not your hat, Dad. You know, like
your name may be on it, but it's definitely not your hat.
It's not your hat, man. Yeah. So I have to be very like, okay, like how do you want to do it? Okay, what do you think about that type thing? Or show me. She always goes for the phone, and then I'm like, no, don't. I put Google down. Like, don't show me the phone. Like, I don't want to see the picture. I want you to tell me what you want it to look like. Like, explain to me what you're saying. So anyways,
It's parenting, man. There's always a lesson. If you ever just sit back, there's so many lessons in it.
there are so many lessons in parenting, and there's so many parallels, right? I think that's the one thing I love about like this podcast or talking to different guests or being a parent is like, no matter how I'm always like in these situations in my business or life, I'm always like putting parallels together, and you realize like there's so many parallels, like, you know, the ramping up of a project, the dealing with the day-to-day of a project, the wrapping up at the end of a project, right? Like there's so many parallels where I've also realized I have the same reactions. I have the same kind of annoyances or the things that get me fired up. And then I also have the same like pitfalls, right? Like I have the same where like, okay, you have to realize like, okay, I'm not the day-to-day guy, or I am the day-to-day guy, or I'm not the ramp-up guy, I'm the wrap-up guy. And I think if you can like, pay attention to all that stuff in life and just kind of start to put those pieces together, it will maybe not make you happier, but will lead to a happier life, I feel like. You know?
Oh, I agree. Yeah. No, the parallels, it's finding those analogies, parallels, whatever you want to use, of this throughout life. And I think that's why people who are consistent are always ahead. Because if you can be consistent in one, building a hat together, chances are you're going to be consistent in the work you do. And chances are you're going to have that same workflow across the board. I mean,
well, and I think the trap I find myself falling into sometimes is being preferential with the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And letting that dictate in some way, shape, or form my mood, you know? And I think when I look back at, you know, how I was raised or growing up or doing whatever, was kind of like the work was irrelevant to the fact that it had to be done.
Yeah.
And if you could learn to approach all of the work, whether it was your strength or your weakness, or you liked it or didn't like it, or it was muddy or cold or wet or whatever, if you could just learn to approach it all kind of the same way and tackle it the same way, at the end of the day or the week or whatever, you'd typically be, you know, further along in a little bit better mood than if you get preferential about it. And that's what I mean by getting preferential about it, is like, you kind of, it's like, I approach things different when it's like stuff I like to do, or when it's stuff I'm excited about. And I approach things differently when it's not. But that sheer approach then dictates like how long it takes, how well I do it, how, you know. And so then it's like, well, then life's a roller coaster more than this kind of like even keel of like, hey man, there's work to be done. Some of it I like doing, some of it I don't like doing, but I'm going to dig in and kind of just eat the frog, tackle the thing, as opposed to like every day you come in. And I think specifically for me, where I saw that rear its head a lot was like leading teams, or groups of people. Because if you start to look at work preferential, there's a good chance that they do too. Yeah. And when you have like, I don't know, call it 8 or 10 people working on a project, and they're all like in a good mood when they're doing work they like to do, and in a bad mood when they're doing it, well, then inevitably like they're always in good and bad moods, and then the whole like, you know, the dynamic of the projects as well as the culture of the team rides those same lines.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like try to surrounding myself with people, but also leading by example of like, hey man, I'm gonna tackle all of this with like as good of an attitude as I can, and kind of hump down, because that's the expectation that I have for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's guiding them there. I think mine has always been, I don't think I've ever fallen into that one. More, I take a lot of the emotion out of it, but I think it's just aligning to what whatever work it is gets you to. Right. So in my mind, I can go put in work I don't like because I know the end goal. It's a means to an end. So when I'm putting it in, so I try to make sure that balance, because there's a lot of work I don't like doing.
How do you handle putting in work to something like if you like the result at the end, it's easy to go tackle something that you don't like to do and do it with some vigor or a positive attitude. Yeah. What happens when the end's still going to be bad?
Yeah. So you guys still keep going even though the outcome isn't even something. That's a tough one.
That to me is like that's the ultimate like test, right? It's like, hey, if you really want to test a person, put them in a crappy situation, make it really hard and uncomfortable for them, but then like also extinguish the joy of the end result that it's ever going to be good, right? Yeah. And this is actually a great conversation parallel. So I'm gonna shift this really quick.
Yeah.
So after our last podcast we did with Justin, AB, we did a 2-part series, but we did best deal, worst deal.
Yeah.
And after that podcast, I actually had a good friend of mine ask me, he's like, hey, he's like, I listened to your podcast last week, blah, blah, blah. He's like, hey, I never knew that story. And we were just kind of wrapping out. And he goes, how do you guys do it? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, well, how, like, he's like, honestly, he's like, you and Jordan, he's like, I hear all these stories, but he's like, what keeps you? He's like, well, here's an idea for a podcast, or this is what I like to know. He's like, what keeps you guys actually going on a day-to-day basis? Because he's like, you guys are both very transparent. You talk about like, oh man, this was a train wreck deal. Or yeah, sure, we've had some wins, but we've had some losses. But he's like, but you guys keep biting into the same cake essentially, right? Like you keep coming back for more. So I think there's this misnomer, or from his words specifically, he was like, it almost seems like you're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Like you like the pain or you like the suffering. And I was like, no, that's not it, right? And he goes, no, I don't think that's it either. And he goes, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, because I am genuinely curious about what it is that keeps you guys kind of coming back to the trough day after day, or coming back, and continuing forward. And I think what we were just talking about is a really interesting conversation of like, well, I think a lot of it has to do with, and I'm not speaking for you, but I'm saying I think a lot of it has to do with, we believe that there's an end in sight somewhere down the line that's good. Yeah. Because that'll keep you coming back. Yeah. And then the coin I'm flipping is like, well, what if it's not,
and I think it's a little bit of that. I shifted to, I think what you also spoke to when you said it before. I think I enjoy the journey of it. The hard part is I think everyone should know what you're getting into. And I think that's why I'm uber transparent about it. Like Whitney she listens to all of them. She's like, man, I didn't know Keith. I don't know how Keith bounced back from that one. And then I re-listened to your story too. I'm like, man, of any, that would be one that knocks you down. Yeah. And I think when I'm looking at it, it's that I think any good entrepreneur can see the forest through the trees. And that, in my mind, that's a lot of what gets there. And I think the other hard part for me is I just have a general curiosity, that, and like this insatiable curiosity to be like, okay, I just figured out 10 ways not to do it this time. And the hard part I keep figuring out is, well, now I'm going to learn 10 ways not to do it on the next one, 10 ways on the next one. But I think in my head, it's like eventually I'm going to hit a point where those become knowns in my world of what I'm doing. Do I tackle a patent building project again? I think the difference now is I know what the cost is. And so when I'm doing a cost benefit analysis on everything I do now, and doesn't mean the cost is like massive, but I know if I take on a project like that, now I know what it entails. If I would have tried it, I never would have known. And I think too often people just hear the pain of it and they can't picture what that end looks like. Like no matter what I go through, I still have a good picture of what it could be. And I think as long as I can keep that, it keeps you going through the hard times, keeps you going through the good times. But in there's also wins. And the difference was I didn't make my win getting there. And that helped me. So then my win is today I solved a decent asbestos issue at Peyton. Yeah. That was slowing me down. Well, that's a massive win. Is the project done? Are people moved in? No.
Right. And you got to keep those in sight, right? You got to celebrate those, or at least just kind of feel good about them. I think one of the problems that I have and a lot of entrepreneurs or business leaders have is like we stop celebrating the wins that we should celebrate because there's so many problems that it's really easy to solve this asbestos issue like you're talking about, which is a really big win. It's probably been a problem for months or weeks, or you know what I mean? Yeah. But the day you solve it, someone else is always in your ear and they're like, by the way, this is broken, this also isn't working, and I need you over here and you need to call this. And you're like, so then you're just kind of like shove that win aside and go tackle the next problem, and your life can become problems and stuff. But
I think that would deter a lot of people because then you're just waiting for this outcome. So you think that
what keeps you going is it hope? Is it some sort of end goal in sight where all of Jordan's problems are gone, or that you're just the most efficient machine that you can be?
What's the counter of that? What's the counter of me not going?
Well, so my counter is...
Or like the opposite. Like, let's say, so to that question, right? What keeps you going? Mine is like, what stops you? So like when I think about that question, people have asked me all the time, well, how do you keep going at this thing? Or what gets you up in the morning? How do you keep going? And I'm like, well, what does the other side look like? Yeah. I don't challenge myself. I don't push myself. I don't try new things. I sit in a comfort zone. Yeah. And I was like,
Well, and I think for us that sounds so absurd. Yeah. Right? I like when you're saying it, I'm shaking my head and just immediately going like, no, like what, I'm going to roll over, give up, just quit, not ever try hard things again, sit around and piss in my beer all day about woe is me. But so many people do that.
Correct. But then they find you're going to justify the journey at some point. No matter what path you're on, you're going to justify or settle into or push on some part of the journey. So for somebody that's asking that, they've either looked at it and that fear risk, all those pieces were so overwhelming that the path they were on made more sense. And I don't think everybody should risk it all and do that. That's not what I'm saying with it at all. But it's that we're all on a path. And at a given point, we're choosing to go through our hard. Now, my hard may have a few more zeros and may look differently, but we're all facing a hard. And at every point in any given day, you get the choice to lean into it or run away from it. And I think what I made the choice consciously early on was I'm going to lean into all of these. Because what I found was when you lean into fear or whatever you think fear is and you go through or overcome or even you fail, but you try, is you get back up and you're a little better every time. Yeah. And that's what I've seen. And I think the fact I can look back now at, okay, I remember when, I think I told the story when I was flipping a house, very first flip house I was buying by myself. I had luckily let me take early possession. I put $1,000 of earnest money. So I'm go in, it's a hoarder house, of course, over by Corbin Park. And I go in, I have my gloves on, I got my garbage bags. I'm ready to go tackle the kitchen. I start on one cupboard, pulling the stuff out. I'm 4 bags deep. And I remember sitting there, walking out of that house going, I can't do this. Like, this is not going to be like, there's no way I go tackle this whole thing. I go crying to Whitney because I'm like, we just lost $1,000, which was probably half our savings. And look back on that and I'm like, the pain I felt in that moment is the exact same pain I feel and have felt the last 2 years. Yeah. And so we define hard. And so it's easy to look at somebody else's hard and diminish your own. And I think with most people, it's like, even if you have a small victory on working through it or small things and you tackle something.
Yeah, and I think it goes both ways, right? It's also easy to look at your own heart and diminish somebody else's.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of that happens too. I think a lot of people, they might look at what you're doing or somebody else and be like, that's crazy. I can't imagine how they do that. What keeps them going? I think it's also easy for people to look at their own problems and have them be so big in their own mind that when other people talk to them or approach them out of it, like, well, you just don't understand, dude, the weight I'm carrying, how hard life is for me, the big, that to me, I think is interesting dynamic. Because like you said, people will justify anything. And I think there's an old like kind of saying or quote or something that goes around like the mental health world where they talk about like all behavior makes sense with enough information. Yeah. Like you see people on the corner of the street acting crazy, talking to themselves, screaming, or you see people being like stubborn or doing things that are not in their best interest that are going to hurt them in the long run. And like, but as an outsider looking into someone else's life or at somebody else's behavior in any specific moment, usually it seems crazy, it seems irrational, it seems, asinine, because you fail to have enough information to understand why it is that they're acting that way. Yeah. And simply put, right, if you knew all the pieces of the puzzle, you might not act exactly that way, but it'd become a lot easier to understand, like, oh, like, Sally over here is acting absolutely atrociously, but here's why, right? And it's more of the explanation of it, like, and again, it doesn't justify it, but it explains it a lot more. Yeah. And I think in our own lives, we tend to do that unknowingly. Yeah. We explain away our own poor behavior, our own poor mindsets, our own poor decisions. Yep. And when anybody ever says anything, I'm like, Jordan, why would you do that? That's crazy. Or like, well, of course you're in that spot. Like you did it to yourself. We immediately go, well, no, you don't know. And we want to explain the story. You don't understand my story. If you understood all the nuances of my story, then you'd be where I am too. And it's like, well, no, that's not true either. But
that's not true. Yeah.
But it feels good to be heard and understood.
Yeah, we just want to quantify things, and that's what I realized. I think that's why the first year, kind of as rates went up, and you're just writings on the wall of like where numbers are coming in, and they're not looking pretty, and you're kind of as you're looking at it. And I think that was my first issue was then all of a sudden I had the biggest problem in the world, and when you focus on that as the biggest problem, and you realize, well, no, I'm not dead. The projects are still going. Yeah, like what is actually the worst here? Maybe my communication wasn't the best, but like nobody died. Yeah. Nobody did that. But it's funny how quickly your mind puts this like fear thing that just controls it. And then I would see how it would be very easy to have just hit an eject button. Be like, nope, this is exactly why everyone was right. This is why you weren't supposed to go do that. Yeah. And it's quick how quickly your part comes there. And so I think it's a lot of times for me, it's helpful to go just see other people and you realize and talk and listen to their story. And you're like, wait a second, maybe this wasn't that big. Maybe that, and once you can quantify it, it's just in our world, I think humans today want to make everything so small so that we can understand it. And I think I've now going through this, I've given life the possibility of what if there's no limitations? What if it's so big? Like I was talking, me and Whit went down to Phoenix for a Whitworth function, meet up with some investors. But I was talking to one guy and I said, you know what this thing has taught me is that now at the end of every day, I go, well, what did I do today that but for having gone through this, I would never have done? And so everything I look at, like we wouldn't have started this podcast, but if everything would have gone good, I'm not starting this podcast. If everything would have stayed on the same path, maybe we would have. But like I thought what I went through was hard enough, and I think people going through it should hear the other side of it. That's the whole reason I initially. Now I love it. It's one of my favorite things I do. But like every day, it's like, what relationship did I meet that I wouldn't have met if I'd gone through it? What if you go through all that pain to help one person? What if you go through all that pain to help one person? You don't even get a seat in that person, but that person goes out and helps 50 people. And it's like this, and so I think generally, to go back to that original question, I just have a general hope and optimism towards what we as humans can do and what like kind of going through your story. And so all the time it's like whenever I get the most down or it's like, man, what if there's somebody relying on me to get through my story so they can get through theirs?
It's funny. So I have a ton of thoughts here and I lean back on my like kind of philosophical days, but two things. One is the phrase that sticks in my head all the time is like, what if there's no storybook ending?
Yeah.
What if there's no storybook ending? I ask myself that all the time. And one of the reasons that I ask myself that isn't to be like cynical or to be dark, but it's to kind of like reframe perspective or realign myself. When I feel myself getting the dreary wearies, like when I feel myself getting down in the dumps or starting to feel sorry for myself or what I would consider unproductive mindset. Like when I start to feel Keith's mindset slipping to a place where like I'm feeling sorry for myself or I'm becoming self-loathing, I try to, okay, I need to reframe this. And I think some of that is like, well, maybe it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
Maybe there is no storybook ending. I think sometimes the problem is that we've told ourselves through experience in life and through experience with other people in our lives. Like we've had coaches, teachers, mentors that said, hey, Keith, it's going to be hard, but don't worry, it's all going to be worth it. Yeah. You know, it's going to be really hard. You have to work really hard at practice, but that district championship, those trophies will be worth it. Like you're going to feel good about yourself and proud about yourself. Whether you win or lose, you're going to be proud, you know, but so we buy into that. Yeah. And that's great. I think that's awesome. Yeah. But the flip side of that coin is like, but what if not? What if you work your ass off every day and you go and you get your ass kicked every day? Yeah. What if you're the worst wrestler on the team for eternity? Yeah. You know, I think we tell ourselves this story of like, well, that's not going to happen, and it's like, well, what if it is? Yeah. How are you going to approach it? And I think of there's a great book called Man's Search for Meaning by a dude named Viktor Frankl.
Oh yeah, read Viktor.
Yeah, and he basically was like a psychologist that went into concentration camps like during World War II, right? And he writes this book after he gets out of the concentration camp called Man's Search for Meaning. And one of his kind of aha things is that you're in a concentration camp, right? Like this, arguably, I think one of the worst conditions that humans have, you know, and I'm sure there's tons of, you know, other scenarios that are terrible, but arguably an awful situation, and an awful situation that was the end for a lot of people, right? Like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, in life or whatever. But I think one of the things, he pulls a ton of nuggets out of there. It's a great book. But one of the things he talks about was the people who actually went into the camps with the most like status and hope going in did the worst. Yeah. And it was the people who like life already maybe wasn't that great for them before they went in. And it wasn't that being in a concentration camp wasn't terrible. It was terrible, but they were almost like more kind of callous to it. They were like, well, like, you know, we're here. We actually we're together. Yeah. You know, I kind of like this guy over here. We're able to, like, when the guards aren't looking, like, play a little games with these sticks, or somebody snuck in a pack of cards, or like they kind of just found the joys and like the little, like, it's awful. You're living in a concentration camp. There's no hope. There's no hope for rescue. Like, but they weren't, they didn't roll over internally, and they also kind of looked around for the light, you know, so to speak, around them. But it was interesting to read that book. But like this is kind of where my mind goes, is like, well, the other question of like, well, what if there's no storybook ending? For me is always like, I look at my life and go, you know, we were just talking about Crazy Hat Day, right? When this thing started. And it's like, if you died tomorrow, if there was no storybook ending, if I actually do go bankrupt, destitute, and end up like living on someone's couch, a broken man, how will people remember me?
Yeah.
What will the story be like? Well, because the story won't. A lot of times, the stories that we hear about great people, there actually weren't great people at all, but we gloss over their personality traits of them being like an awful human being based on their accolades. So we say, oh, like Christopher Columbus was an amazing person. Yeah. Now, quite frankly, I don't know if he was or not of my history, but I think history sold a little bit so that he actually wasn't that great of a person. Yeah. But people are like, the story forever was like he was a great person because of what he accomplished. Yeah. And I wonder the opposite sometimes. Like, well, how many people out there, like, they don't really accomplish anything big. Yeah. They don't really like move the world. You're not really motivating or inspiring or making a ton of money or, but they're really good human beings. Yeah. They were kind and they were nice and they were helpful. And, so to me, I'm always like, well, if there's no storybook ending, I hope there is. Like I still, I have this idea, like I'm working hard for a reason, but if there's no storybook ending, then I also have to reflect back on like, okay, then who am I being every day? Yeah. Like, how am I showing up? What example am I giving to other people?
Yeah, like I had a conversation with somebody, like, what if throughout your whole life you helped one person?
Well,
at the end of the day, you helped one person.
It'd be a short life, or
but like, what if is that enough?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it 10 people? Is it 100 people? Is it 1,000 people? Like, what point are you enough? And I think that's what this one taught me was going through and building these there's ego, there's all the things in it, but like what one is enough. And I think for too many times, nobody can ever answer that question. And I think some of the happiest people are the people who know when enough's enough. And they find joy in those. Like every study, I didn't quote all of them, but like they all talk about just interviewing people on their deathbed basically. And all they ever talk about, the happiest ones had the happiest relationships. Yet everything we do pushes us towards more success, more things that actually pull you away from better relationships a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so it's just this counter-cyclical, counterintuitive to what we're taught way to do it. And I think that's why you'd be upset in a job, because you're going to sit in that job thinking you're not doing enough. Or is this the end? Or is this the best? Is this the thing I can do? But everything around is telling you, no, you need to keep going for more. I don't know. I had a pretty sweet gig at WSU. It was awesome. I went around top people, worked with cities. It was a blast. But in my head, it was never enough. I was like, no, I need to go. I need to be doing more. And I think asking that fundamental question is what kind of the newer generations are doing. Do you need to do more? Do you need to push yourself to the brink?
Well, they're doing what's natural. They're questioning the things that they were taught was when they were being raised. Like we all do that, right? Like it is a very, I think, healthy and natural response, reaction, modus operandus for younger generations who are raised, no matter how they're raised, to question the things that they were told from authority figures while they were raised, right? Whether they're good or bad, So I think it's a natural progression for sure. Whether it's the right one, I don't know. I think I can look out there and go, yeah, it makes sense. You have a generation or a couple generations of people who were basically climbing a corporate ladder, were gauging success on accolades or end results, succeed at all costs. You're coming out of the Cold War era. You're coming out of World War I or II. I mean, life was kind of very black and white, or at least positioned that way through the governments and medias for a couple generations there. They're good. Or we're good, they're bad. Yeah. We're right, they're wrong. It's this very polarizing sort of like, everything is a threat to like the Western civilization's way of life, or, communism is going to be the death of capitalism is this very kind of, and I think now like younger generations are like, they kind of don't necessarily buy the narratives, and they also are like, well, maybe things aren't just so drastically different. Like maybe there's not just like two ends of a pendulum, right? Like, so I think they just kind of live in a middle ground a little bit more than, or at least easier than we do. And I think, but that can be so foreign to our generation or to us, or I know it's foreign to me. Like sometimes I have to kind of check myself where you're like, what do you mean you don't want like better or more, or to grow or to seek or to learn or to find out, because for us it was the yardstick we were measured against, It's like, well, if you weren't doing that you were doing something wrong, or you weren't trying very hard, or you weren't, now it's kind of normalized. Like, and they look at you like the weirdo. I think that's one of the things.
Definitely.
That's one of the things about getting older. That I think I wasn't prepared for. And anybody out there who's younger, like prepare yourself now, because as you get older, all of the things that you actually hold true and maybe pride yourself on or find fundamental will become questioned by a younger or a different generation, and you will become the weirdo.
Oh yeah,
you will become like the
weird old dude.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, that guy's kind of nutty,
sure,
man.
back in your day,
right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, this podcast has been such a good introspective look at a lot of these things, but it's also now like I've had enough people come. They love it. They love the transparency. They love to hear the hard. And I think what would be fun eventually to move it is where, how do you get somebody through that mindset? I keep thinking it's the expertise, it's the talent, which you need. You have to have some of those pieces. You got to work hard. Like there is a work hard element to it, but it's most people get tripped up on the mindset piece of it.
Yeah, and mindset's so tricky because I feel like that's one of the things I coach around that I'm passionate around, right? Like I'm passionate and I coach people around it, and it's something that I can't, like, I eat, sleep, live, and breathe it. But what I find is, it also is polarizing. There is that I can explain it to you theoretically, but there's no replacement for experience.
Yeah,
like you cannot develop proper mindset. Or sharp mindset, or what I would consider beneficial mindset, without going through trials and tribulations and failures and experience. I can theoretically explain to you, Jordan, how you can create the ideal mindset that will help you push through almost anything and everything you need in life. Yeah. And that will not equip you to, it'd be like me rolling a toolbox up full of tools and being like, here, Jordan, here's an entire toolbox full of tools. By the way, this is a wrench and this is a socket. It turns left and right. These are pliers. Like, like I could explain it all to you. And then you would turn around and look at an engine and be like,
even if you had the picture of it, even if you had the instructions, you still don't know.
Until you tear apart an engine and rebuild it, 50 times or 100. Like it's elusive, right? So that's the thing about life. Is theoretically we can explain it till we're blue in the face to anybody, a child or another human being. Experience is a whole nother ballgame. But what I find is what's beneficial, or I think moves the needle, is having people around you in your life, whether it's like a traditional coach mentor relationship or even just a peer group, that push you to question your decisions, your justifications, your rationales, instead of just living in them. And I think too many people live small enough lives that they don't really either expose themselves to people that will question them, or they get offended, or they'll intentionally avoid it, right? Yeah. Like people start to get a certain age, they disassociate. They associate less and less. They have less and less friends. They go out less and less.
Why do you think that is?
Comfort.
Yeah. You just don't want to be out of the comfort.
Well, I think a lot of it is because it takes energy and effort to go create relationships and meet new people. You got to put yourself out there. You have to show an interest in their life. I think people just get a little bit lazy and they get a little bit comfortable in who they are. And then I think fear, right? Subconsciously scared, right? Rejection, all the things. Like, what if they don't like me? I don't know. What if my ideas aren't accepted? But I think through life, it's really, it's easy to get comfortable and to just say, hey, I'm happy where I'm at. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I do think that that's not something that that it will lead to a place where you will become, how would I say, knowingly and or unknowingly, very likely unknowingly or unaware of your own biases. Yeah,
and they're just built, and I think it's the people that can look at them and change them or challenge them more often. But to your point, you probably get tired of doing that. Of really looking and seeing.
Someone could say, send me a stack of philosophy books of different philosophers that have different opinions and put me in a log cabin in the middle of the woods, and I'll read them all and kind of like have this little argument in my head about like, well, this is what Nietzsche says and this is what Camus, But that's not going to ever replace putting 15 students in a room and having them read book by book and argue it out. Like, what do you think he means when he says this? Do you think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? Like, you're going to get something from other people's ideas and experiences and stuff that you're just never going to be able to self-solve and self-seek all the sorts of aspects and arguments in life. But I think we tell ourselves that we can, right? like the prime example of this probably right in this day and age is like the people that watch like CNN News or people watch Fox News, right? And they're like, you think you can sit at home in your recliner or whatever and watch this media and then self-decipher the level of manipulation or bias that you're getting. Like, well, yeah, I watched that, but like I also read this and do this, and you're like, I don't know, man. Like if you're
it's so crazy even just seeing like what Whitney sees and what I see on social media posts.
Objectively, yeah. If you were to look at like my wife's news feed or my news feed or just even friends,
she'll say something. I'm like, never even heard that. Like
you're like, there's
that
no
concept.
way.
Yeah, exactly. I try, and again, to your point, you try to be objective. It's just that we're in a world where it's meant to divide. I think that's what I've taken from it all now. Everything out there right now is meant to divide in a sense of because we want black and white. This is what I think fundamentally why we had it so long is everybody wants a black and white. It's easy to live in a world where everything's black and white. And so when you can divide people and all of a sudden you make it political, you make it one of those things that it really takes away what I think humans want the most, which is that fundamental curiosity to just learn and understand it.
I also think that our minds crave simplicity.
Yeah.
And we're taught simplistically as children because you're not gonna sit down with a 5 or a 10-year-old and explain them like the nuance and complexities of like higher being. So it's easy to you're like, this is left and this is right and this is up and this is down. Like I'm objectively giving you simple concepts that you can understand. So then I think we seek those. Yeah. And I think it's a lot harder when someone starts talking about like issues, whatever those issues are, like the issues in the Middle East. And it's like, well, the reality is they're massively complex. Yeah. They're massively nuanced. Right. There's 400 strings pulling this ball in 50 different directions. But people want to be like, well, it's really about, you know, the Muslims and the Jews. And I don't think, it's like, oh, dude.
Sure. Yeah,
sure. Like, I really don't think that it's that simple or, but I think that people crave that. They want that. Yeah. I think media outlets know that they want that. And so they serve them that, right? Like and it's also easier to polarize and to get people on your side. Like I would imagine, I've never been to war. I don't ever want to be to war, but I would imagine it's easier to charge into battle and go kill your enemy if you truly believe that their way of life is like immoral or wrong or going to threaten you or yours. Yeah. So it's in, a government's best interest or a military. It's like, of course I want it simple for you. Yeah. They're bad. Yeah. We're good. Yeah. Go kill them. Right?
Yeah, but think about like the millionaire's tax that just got passed. Well, I don't know if it's officially passed, but it went pretty far. I think it might be actually passed.
Yes.
But like technically that tax applies to everyone.
Oh yeah.
Like if you ever read the bill, it's like it applies to everybody, but
there is no direct language in there that says that it will not
because they tried to put 100,000 and under as an exemption, and I think I got struck.
There's no exemptions. Yeah.
I don't think
long term, right?
Yeah, long term. Yeah. But then I look at it, I'm like, but that's how you sell it. Millionaire's tax. Yeah. Should millionaires pay? I'm sure. Well, I'm not even here to debate that portion. It's just how we're presented information is meant to divide. And so then it's like, hey, that rich people should be paying their share. And you're like, but you don't understand. Like, whoever created the bill wanted it passed. So why do you think they named it that? It's because we're not going to dive in deep enough to truly understand that we just passed an income tax. Yeah. The one benefit of this stupid state is we had no income tax. And now I'm like, all right, where are we looking to go? Like, I was literally listening to them talking about the Seahawks came out and said a bunch on it because one of their strategic advantages was they could go offer $100 million to somebody, and it was a better deal than if you were going to the Rams because there was no income tax on that $100 million.
Right.
Versus if you're there. Now it's like, well, there's a 10% tax on everything over the $1 million. And it's just like things like that you look at, and it's how many just get pushed through because we try to put kid gloves or make them so not even divisive, that's the wrong word, but I think that's just the part that across the board ends up happening just so we can understand, or at least so people can feel like they understand it.
Well, and I think people underestimate the amount of work and effort is put into deceiving or manipulating the general populace with a lot of those bills. Like, just look at the names of them in general. Yeah. Like, this is the Save Sunshine and Puppies bill. Yeah. And it's like, it has nothing to do with sunshine and puppies, right? But that's what we're going to call the bill. Yeah. has to do with emissions and greenhouse gases and also like, whatever, education supplements. But they're manipulative in nature, right?
Yeah.
And they pay people a lot of money to write those bills and to label them and to title them and to,
it's
Like
marketing.
it's not as innocent as people think or as happenstance.
Yeah. So if I'm sitting in, this is the one I'm always trying to understand, because I think for a while there, I always just pushed people to do more, from agents to people who'd ask me for entrepreneurial advice. It was like, all right, kind of like concept of our show, Chestnut Checkers. The idea was, hey, instead of doing one coffee shop, why did that guy do 20? Or why do they do it that much more or that different? But like if I'm sitting in that, or I have my own business and I have 2 employees and I'm at like a comfortable level, what is your advice to me as the employee or that business owner about growing or staying put, or kind of what that next piece looks like? Like, you advise him to learn how to scale or find a new job or get a promotion, or is it more about comfort or like maintaining comfort?
No, but if you really boil it down, the seeking of comfort is never the answer. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I think that's been proven historically time and time again. Not that being comfortable is bad or getting in a position that allows you to be comfortable, seeking it intentionally. Mm-hmm. So if I have 2 or 3 decisions to make and I'm like, well, this one, seems risky, this one seems hard, and this one seems really comfortable. If I make a decision seeking comfort, inevitably that ends up either being a poor decision, or it ends up with the person who made it long-term not being very satisfied or fulfilled. I don't want to say unhappy or depressed or maybe in a negative light, but typically not fulfilled, right? You're not going to meet a whole lot of people who will look back at their life or will tell you about decisions they made and go, you know what? I'm super happy I made this decision because it's just really filled my cup and it was the easiest thing I could do, right? It's not typically where it goes. But what I think the thing I would advise, or the other pitfall, swinging the pendulum in the other direction, is I see a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, and I've raised my hand, I've been here before. We seek out discomfort and we seek out hard, almost with like a chip on our shoulder, almost as a way to like prove people wrong, almost as a way to like buck the system. And the problem with that is that, or the reason behind it is because a lot of times that's where we start from, and it works. So I come into business with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, trying to prove something, trying to change an industry, trying to be a thought leader or to be an entrepreneur that can, and it works. Yeah. And all of a sudden my coffee stand blows up and I start another one. I have 3 coffee stands. But now I've gone to this storytelling process of myself where my narrative is like, see, I can buck the system. These people told me I couldn't do it and I did it. And we start to get kind of some ego, or just the fact that bucking the system is becoming our modus operandus. We start to seek out other areas where people have failed. We start to seek out other areas where people told us that's dangerous or don't go there. Once again, because we have this dopamine hit, we have this thing where it's like, yeah, the financial rewards are great, but I also love proving people wrong. I also love, dusting my shoulder off every morning going, see, like they don't know. And I think it tells us that we're special, or that we can do things other people can't, or that other people can't tell us what to do. The problem is that when you start playing business and entrepreneurial, it doesn't, like we all, you and me know for sure, but we all know that things don't always go well. And the problem is small failures are a lot easier to recover from than big failures. Yeah. And you don't want to be the guy with 35 coffee stands who's built them, bucking the system, going against the grain, doing all the things that and the whole way you're telling yourself that you're this, you have the magic wand and this, the Midas touch, and that you can outwork and But the problem is that then when that pivot shifts back the other way, and 2 things in my mind. One is you don't get to play victim. Yeah. How did this happen? Right. It's the way that everybody told you it would happen, right? But also you can't recover. Yeah. You can't. You don't have that ability to just go, oh shoot, I got to come and work hard on Saturday. Kind of some of the stuff we talked to Justin about a week or so ago. So all of this is for me to say. My advice is like not necessarily seeking comfort, but also be very wary of where you are winning and how you're winning, so that you don't kind of mistakenly take what I would consider not necessarily beneficial or poor behavior as the basis or platform to act from. And I think a lot of business people and entrepreneurs do that. Yeah. It's like you're winning in spite of things,
Yeah.
but yet you're using that as the model to go out and continue to win.
Yeah.
And inevitably that goes south at some point. And it might go south at a point where you cannot really actually recover. So what is my advice? My advice then is, as you go out, I think you need to do two things. I think you need to be honest and reflective with yourself as to what it is that's working and not working and why. Okay, these things are going good in my life. These things are not going good in my life or business, right? Why? Why are these things that are not going good actually not going good? Well, Keith, it's because you're impatient. You're not a great communicator and you've failed to commit to really understanding what makes people tick. Instead of, they're all lazy and they never listen to me. It's like, be honest.
Yeah.
What in your business doesn't work well? Well, I cycle through a lot of people. Okay, why? Why do you think your business cycles so well? Probably because of some traits or characteristics or things that you either do or don't do or haven't trained yourself in, right? Okay, what's going really good? Sales, growth. Okay, so what's the story you're telling yourself there? I'm amazing. I'm awesome. I can, it's like, no, seriously, why? Oh, we're in a 20-year economic upcycle. Oh, I happen to get into, if you can, and that's the hard part, right? But if you can be honest with yourself about what's going good and what's going bad and truly why, let's break it down. And you're going to need probably some peers or some people to be like, hey, what do you see that I do well or how this is going? And ask your employees. So I'd say that's step one. But then step two is the one thing that I would tell people, I didn't do this well and I wish I would have, but I see it a lot, is if you want to grow and you want to do big things and you want to open more shops, or that's all fine. I would encourage you to do that. Don't seek comfort and don't do it for the wrong reasons or whatever. But what if it's not what you thought it would be? Or what if it doesn't work out? Is there a path back or is there a path out? And those are the two things that I never did well, or I would find them after the fact.
Yeah.
So real quick, prime example was I got into real estate. I was a good agent. I started a team. At some point in time, the office that I was working at asked me to run the office, right? So I became one of the youngest team leaders and CEOs of Keller Williams Realty in the Northwest region when I was late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. And it was this gradual progression. I'm good here. I'm good here. I'm good here. Sure, you're here. But I never once said, what if it didn't work?
Yeah.
Or what if you hate it? Or what if you finally did, you know what I mean? And so then what would happen was I'd find myself in a position where it was like, yeah, I'm not doing a great job at this, or I've scaled beyond my skills, or the people I'm working for aren't happy with me, or I'm just not happy in the role. But I turn around and look backwards and it's like, oh shit, there's no path back. I didn't leave myself a clear path back. So it's like going to the coffee stand thing. If I got 3 and I want to scale to 10, I'd say, great, build a scale to to 10. And then also, by the way, when you get to 5 or 6, if it's not working, if it doesn't feel right, if things are, then just scale back to 3.
Yeah.
But you can only do that if you leave a path back.
Yeah.
Or if you have or get out. Right? Just sell all 5 and start over, whatever that path is. I think the big thing I see people doing that I would say is, problematic is we're not honest with ourselves about what's working, what's not working. Our modus operandus for success is built on poor behaviors like a chip on our shoulder, or proving people wrong, or bucking the system. And then we scale at all costs without actually ever leaving ourselves a path back or a path out as we scale. And those 3 things will typically lead to the most detrimental of failures. You'll get too big for your britches and make bad decisions. Yeah. You won't be honest with yourself about your capabilities and your skills to continue to scale in the way that you are to maintain happiness and fulfillment. Or you'll just get to a point when you're doing it where it's not even like it's not working. I have a bunch of people I know that it's like, you're successful in business and your business is great, but they just get to a point in their life where I have kids now. I didn't used to have kids.
Yeah.
Or I'm an empty nester now. My kids are gone and now I have your position in life changes and you just decide, hey, this thing, whether it's working or not working, just doesn't work for me anymore. Yeah. But they're trapped. Yeah. They're stuck. And so I feel like that's kind of, if I were to write the story, right, blindfold Keith and be like, how's this story end, Dad? I'd be like, here's how it goes. Those are my 3 pieces of advice, or pitfalls that I'd say most people end up in.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally a lot of my story there too. Because I think in that, because you're not saying scale is bad. You're saying just understand yourself, understand why you grew and why you did that. Because I think if I would have broke it down, I mean, I gave a lot of credit to interest rates. I think that was the big one, right? It was easy to get qualified. It was easy to do the projects. And I think the advice most people would have given me was it wasn't slow down because, and this is how I took it. It wasn't slow down because they didn't think I could do it. That's how I took it, right?
Right.
They're saying slow down because I'm going to go take something that they probably wanted. They were saying slow down because they were looking out saying what are you racing towards? Like these are historically low rates. We're in a historically long bull run market.
Mm-hmm.
Like pull some chips off the table, and that's the common one I get. And then I think the bigger one is to that effect. What somebody could do immediately is find a group that you can surround yourself with that's honest with you. Because as easy as it is to look introspectively and say, no, that's just my ego talking. I remember that took years for me to even try to get to the point I could say that to myself.
Yeah.
Read the books, went through the stuff, tried to solve it. And it's hard for you to objectively do that to yourself. You can reflect and be aware.
It's also hard for other people to do to you. And that's why, again, I don't want trying to push coaching or professional relationships for that stuff. But it is also different when you pay someone to do it or when you hire someone to come in and analyze your business. Yeah. Because, man, I like you, Jordan, and I like, drinking beers on Thursdays and hanging out. And you're like, hey, Keith, you know what? Be really honest with me, man. What do you think about this and that? And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to be really honest with you. It's like, I want to come back next Thursday. Honest with you, but I also don't want to ruin this thing we have where, like, you're doing amazing things. I'm a supporter of that. I don't really want to, like, shit on your parade or be the Debbie Downer that you don't want to hear. So I'm going to be like, yeah, dude, like, you're doing okay.
Seems all right.
Yeah. Or just like, hey, maybe slow down a little bit. Whereas when you really pay someone to come in, and I think that's where it's like, I think of a great example of this is like, Tiger Woods, arguably one of the greatest golfers of all time, has a swing coach. Yeah. And Tiger doesn't pay his swing coach to be like, looks great, Tyler. Yeah. It's like, dude, hey, man, your head speed's off, your hand positions, and by the way, like, that guy probably can't hit a ball further, longer, better than Tiger.
No.
It's not like the swing coach is a better golfer, but he's going to pay someone to come in and be like, your left knee is moving an inch, and long term, that's going to like transition into your hip, and like you're going to pay a professional to pick you apart. Yeah. Hey, man, you cannot throw a baseball with your elbow in that position. Yeah. And you're going to need Tommy John surgery. Like there are people in your life that if you say, hey, man, here's $5,000, look at my business, look at my life and pick it apart. Like, you're going to get probably a lot more honest and direct.
I'd argue before you went, Pat, when you were taking that one coffee shop to 3, you hire that person. Like, that's what I would have done a lot sooner.
And I think a lot of us seek out mentors, which is fine. Yeah. But mentors a lot of times want to be encouraging. I go talk to Bobby that owns Indaba, and I've got my coffee saying, hey, Bobby, I got 2 or 3. What do you think? He's going to be like, dude, you're doing good, man. Yeah,
keep going. It's going to get hard.
Yeah. And they want to encourage us and say, watch out for this. Put some chips aside. Your friends, your spouses, your father-in-law, all those people that have great business accolade that you respect, they're going to say the same things. Like, you're a smart kid, work hard. I think, it's just it's an interesting opening yourself up to asking for help and telling people that you want them to be honest with you is a great first step. I also think professional or, coaching or consulting, especially business-wise, is paramount. If you really want to, scale and have somebody be honest with you about where the pitfalls land and where your strengths and weaknesses are and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it's hard, right? It's super hard. Yeah. And I don't want to just say that and let everybody off the hook, right? Like, if somebody honestly asks me, and I think this is the cool thing about having a podcast. Four people are listening, so who gives a shit? But this is the cool thing about having a podcast or talking with people. Like, is it like, I'm like, do you want me to be honest with you, right? And I think that's the thing is like, if I really was honest and said, what would I do differently or where do I see the pitfalls? That's it, man. People get arrogant and they get self-deceptive about the things that they're actually creating their success. People fail to leave themselves backup plans to shrink a little bit or to exit strategy, right? And people basically inevitably don't reflect and aren't honest with themselves about what got them there and what they're doing good and what they're doing bad. It's like, because that's very hard to do. Yeah. So it's like saying, and a 400-pound deadlift's really hard to do, and then you're just going to go try hard? Yeah. That's your plan? Yeah. Well, I guess, a 400-pound deadlift's really hard, so I'm going to have to try hard. Yeah. dude, that's a way to blow a disc in your back or never get this. Like, no, that's when you get a coach. That's when you develop a nutrition plan. That's what, okay, if these things are important to you, then that's where you have to like say, yeah, the understanding of like, I'm probably not real self-reflective and not real honest with myself about where my success comes, recognizing that's one thing, but then you're just going to go do that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, you know what, Jordan, I'm just going to be a little bit more reflective.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be a little bit more honest with myself about my pitfalls. Well, if that was easy to do, everybody would do that.
Oh, man.
There's a reason it's called a blind spot, I guess is what I'm getting at, right? Like they hit the nail on the head. Like they're called blind spots for a reason because you can't see them.
Yeah.
And trying hard to see them. Like, hey, Jordan, try really hard to see your blind spots.
Yeah. Well, you can't. And I mean, I'm pretty introspective. Like I break it down every day of what did right, what did wrong, but you're still missing. Yeah. There's a bias that'll always be overlaid with it. And I think, I don't know, it's the more I've seen it, you're right, man. I've played that out. I know 5 entrepreneurs because I got asked to coach somebody. I'm like, I'm still going through it, man. I don't know. But then I'm picturing what my advice will be in 4 years. And it's going to be, well, it's going to get hard. And then that's just where you have to work a little harder and you have to really buckle down. And then you'll get through it. Just make sure you get through it. And then now, if I would hear that advice from somebody right now, I'd be so pissed. Of course it's hard, dude. that's why I'm talking to you. Just don't give up. And I'm like, oh my God, that is the worst advice. Because sometimes you should. Like, it's that piece where I'm like, because I was a burn your ships guy. I was like, hey, but I had, again, my goal is a little different where I was trying to get to is that, I don't even know if I really wanted it, back to your point. So that would have been a first assessment. But now going through it, but I was never left it out.
What's interesting to me is the hard work that people will do to avoid the hard work that they should be doing. So what I would say is like potentially the hard work that you should have been doing along the way was like really figuring out your why and what you're trying to accomplish and why you're trying to do it and really diving deep into the root of like what Jordan really wants in life and what Jordan, right? But that's hard work. And that's vulnerable work. And that doesn't come quick. You're not going to do that in 5 minutes and in one afternoon. But so is building an assload of apartments is hard work, right? But it's easier hard work than sourcing like, you know, your why and your purpose and what you're trying to, you know. So I think a lot of times, like as a coach, that's what I see is people will work 60-hour weeks. People will work 70-hour weeks. People will bury themselves in the doing of their craft to avoid 15-minute a day reflection on like, what am I trying to do with my life? Like, who am I trying to be? Like, why am I so gung-ho to try to impress these people that don't give a shit about me or to get this chip up? Like, right? But that interpersonal kind of deeper work is like scary and so we're like, nah, I'm just going to buckle down and work 80 hours this week and build 400 units. Right? It's like, but I see that happen all the time across all industries. And it's because like, that's why, because it's that, really I would say it's difficult work, not hard work. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's you know,
it's difficult. It's hard to measure is another one. So it's not like if I had to paint this room, I could grab some paint and I would know at the end it was painted. And I think when you're doing that kind of work, there's just so many. It's like
I do it at those simple scales, right? Like I got a fixture that needs paint and I got my taxes to do. Yeah. Oh, fuck, I'll go paint that room on my fixture. It's important, Jordan. It's really important, right?
It's the most important.
It's the most important thing I got to do today is paint that bedroom with that flipper, you know?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I like those 3 points because if somebody could solve that, it's amazing how quickly you think you were the cause of the growth. And when it works, how everything is like, nope, it's because I did this or this. And I think the really good entrepreneurs are the ones who step back either way and assess true growth, true loss, what their business can and can't do, strengths, and you're doing that from the beginning. But it's really hard to do because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And I think that's a caveat in all of this, right? Is that reflection. I can do the reflection now because I know what bad, good, and the indifferent looks like.
Yeah.
So reflecting back, I'm like, oh, of course that was a bad system. I didn't even track that because now I've seen it fail. And I think sometimes when you're going through it and it feels like they're working, you're less.
Well, and you're more likely to make the same pitfalls and mistakes when you don't document or track what you do because we tend to operate by like osmosis or like spidey sense, right? We're like, I just get
gut feelings.
Right. I just don't feel like this guy's being honest with me. I just don't like this deal, Jordan. But when you push someone who's been doing something for 20 years And it's like, well, George is out. He doesn't like this deal. Well, how come? I don't know. He just doesn't like it. Well, why did he say he didn't like it? I don't know. He literally just got it from the table and was like, I don't like the deal. And like you push and push and push. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know, dude. I've been doing this a long time. I don't like it. Yeah. I think they do know why. Yeah. I just don't think they can articulate it because they never have like documented or paid attention enough times to like the deals that went south. Like this deal has 3 tickers that match 3 of 5 tickers of every deal that went south that you've ever done. You don't know that. Yeah. You just kind of gut know it. So I think for us to grow in business, I think that's a lot of times some of the other mistakes we do is we kind of operate by that spidey sense, which will, and again, it gets you so far. Mm-hmm. It gets you so far, and then it just depends on how big you want to play the game. Or how many times you want to get smacked in the mouth.
I think that's it. And again, I think the reason I get smacked in the mouth a lot, and probably the reason you do too, is that like we're not in one lane.
Well, and I don't mind getting smacked in the mouth. Yeah. I hate getting smacked in the mouth by the same like left hand that the guy's already smacked me with 3 times. And it's like I know how he throws it. I know where it comes from. And I lower my hand for 2 seconds and he smacks me with that same one. And I'm like, that one really hurts.
Knew it. Yeah, again. Yeah.
That one, Yeah. But I like kind of wrapping a little bow on this conversation. I think one of the things that I started this questioning out was like a friend said to me, what keeps you going? Why do you keep doing this? And I think when I really think about that question and tie a little bow on this, one of the things I think about is the myth of Sisyphus. I don't know if I've ever explained this to you before. No. I think I have. I think I brought this up before. But the myth of Sisyphus is Sisyphus is like a Greek mythology character, right? And he pisses off the gods. I think initially he pisses off Zeus about something, and then Hades and Thanos. And anyways, long story short, he's this slippery dude, and he's mortal, and he pisses the gods off. So the gods get together, and they decide to banish him to kind of like some lower level of hell where he's stuck there with a boulder, and the only way he gets out of hell is if he rolls the boulder over the hill. And they intentionally make the boulder too heavy for him to roll over the hill. And so this is now his life. This is his destiny. This is his everything he can do is he's stuck in this kind of hell where all he has to do is roll the boulder up. And the reason I love this story so much is I think that life's a little bit like that. Not to be cynical, but I think when you really look at like, we don't really choose where we're born. We don't really choose who our parents are. We don't really choose our level necessarily of like intellect or our personality. There's so many things that are kind of what I would say God-given or innate. It's like you're saying, like, could you avoid it even if you wanted to, right? Like that's the whole philosophical conversation of we will. Like, are we, like, is it destined, or is it free will, right? Like destiny and free will can't exist, technically speaking, right? Yeah. David and Goliath, right? If David wasn't destined to beat Goliath, he probably wouldn't have done it, right? But at the same time, we all like freedom. We all want to think that like Jordan's making Jordan's decisions on his own. Mm-hmm. And then when you really look down to like biologically, the things that you're manipulated by, your hormones, your like all of these, people can make it really like you're not really making a whole lot of decisions. You're being like controlled or manipulated, or there's a lot of things that are like, you're probably going to, if you left here today, I could bet money that you're going to end up in Kansas City in like, 6 months. Yeah. Or within 20 feet, right? And for the most part, that's kind of how life is, right? Yeah. Like we kind of, I don't know, we get a lot of choice around, but we get to choose in moments. But the reason I love this story so much is that Sisyphus kind of, as the story goes, he starts rolling the ball up the hill, it's rolling back down, rolling the ball up and he kind of at some point decides that like he doesn't really have anything better to do. And it's either sit here and kind of like piss in my own Cheerios and feel sorry for myself, or like, might as well just get up and roll this ball. And so he keeps doing it to almost to like the detriment of the gods. Yeah. To where like the gods who thought they had fooled Sisyphus who are watching and like this poor mortal, right? Like he's like never getting out of there. Yeah. But he keeps doing it like, to where like they start getting angry. They're like, what is he doing? Like he keeps rolling.
He looks
like,
happy.
He's never gonna, right? And so Sisyphus ends up kind of becoming the hero of the story by saying like, going back to that Viktor Frankl thing, like being in a concentration camp, like could you live and die a life with not really ever a storybook ending? Like maybe you never get out of the concentration camp. Okay, well then that's your life. Yeah. You're just going to live your life in a concentration camp. Like, well then are you just going to be this like sorry, sad, mean person who disengages, who is, it's like, well, no, I'm going to be the best version of me I can be. And so like these two, they kind of parallel, right? Like Viktor Frankl's kind of existential pull on these people in terrible situations, kind of like Sisyphus is like, you have to make the best of whatever situation you're in at all costs, right? Like, or all the time. Like, I think that is, to me, life.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the meaning and the purpose of life is like, I don't get to choose a lot of this, man. Like, I don't know. I like to feel like I got a lot of free will. I wake up every day thinking like Keith's going to be Keith. But at the end of the day, what I know is I'm here now for whatever reason, doing what I'm doing. And so what matters is like how I do it, how I choose to approach it. The people in my life that I choose to motivate or inspire or pick up that are next to me or invite into my life. Also like who I get to work with or how I get it. So I think for me, that's the highest level that I can think. Yeah. It's like to tackle everything all the time with that sort of kind of mindset. And again, I think that only comes with the experience, being kicked in the teeth and realizing that like a shitty attitude doesn't help anything. Right. Yeah. And moaning and bitching
and why the kick
blaming
in the teeth works, like just to piggyback off that, because I actually really like where you're headed with it, was that because then when you're not kicked in the teeth, you know what it feels like. And I think sometimes, like for me now, I appreciate everything so much more. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate it before, but I was faced with what it looked like to lose it.
Yeah.
And I got the blessing of not having to lose it all, but still. So now when something happens, I'm the most grateful I've ever been. And I'm probably the happiest I've ever been because of that.
Yeah.
Now there's still hard things, right? I think where my journey was mistaken was that Viktor Frankl one's a good one. I've heard that one. But I went into this as the guy who had the hope and I'm going to get through this. And where I faded the fastest and the lowest point of the whole thing was when the hope faded.
Well, and had you got through it unscathed, you'd have told yourself irrational, misbelieving story anyway.
Exactly.
That you were so amazing and great that you dodged the bullet that everybody else got.
All it took was a little bit more work, and those guys proved them wrong.
Yeah, those guys just don't like to work hard like I do. They just don't know what I know.
It's exactly that, and I think that and I attacked it that way, and I used to think it's the hope that kills us. Ted Lasso talks about that, and it's not the hope that kills you. It's it goes even deeper than that. It's just
not the fall. It's a sudden stop at the end.
Yeah, right. It's because it wasn't that it was the hope. It's this irrational hope. And where I gained it was just the gratitude for everything around it.
Well, too much hope becomes
detrimental.
It becomes delirium, right? Like nobody's sitting in the concentration camp going like, "Hey guys, it's gonna be okay. They're gonna come to us tomorrow. Like we're all getting out of here tomorrow. It's gonna be okay." Like
and then every time tomorrow
somebody
came,
right? Oh, but you know what? I'm sorry, it's tomorrow. Like too much hope is just like it's just unrealistic and it's delirium, right? Like you'd look at that person and be like, "Jordan's crazy. Dude. He always thinks we're getting out of here tomorrow." He's been saying
that's probably what it was
years,
for a while.
Right?
There was one loan that took me. It's broke ground now. We're framing it, but it took almost 2 years. Now, some of the middle ground of that was like, I don't think it's right to build it right now, but like from when I was supposed to break ground to when I actually broke ground was almost 2 years.
Yeah.
But for the first year, I'm like, no, here, it's around the corner. Versus if I would have just emailed everybody and said, look, I don't think this is the right time.
Well, and that's that analogy
and that's
of
that
like
lesson I learned through it.
You kind of, I hate to sound like I'm kicking a dead horse, but it's like success doesn't happen when you want it to happen. Yeah. Success doesn't happen when you think you deserve it. Yeah. Like success happens, or a lot of things happen when like they happen, and it still takes all the hard work to make them happen, but you just don't necessarily get to choose when those dominoes fall all the time. And we can tell ourselves this story that maybe we have a little bit more free will than we really do when it comes to that stuff. Like I do believe in destiny. I do believe that certain things are set. And I think there's also a little bit of wiggle room, right? Like I kind of meet in the middle. But I think some of our dismay, our despair, our sort of like, discomfort in life comes from an unrealistic expectation from what we think should happen, when it should happen, and when it actually happens and how it happens.
And then when it doesn't, you keep letting yourself down every time it doesn't happen. And so
or we blame other people. Yeah. We blame situations. We blame all the things because we are just so in disbelief that our expectations didn't meet reality when we thought they should.
Yeah. So my final piece to that, I know we got to wrap up here shortly, but is is if you're in those spots or in that dark, just find 3 things. There's 3 things in your life you're grateful for. and just dwell on those for a little while. Like it's amazing what just it does to your mindset even, because then it makes that one bad thing, the 5 bad things. Well, okay, I'm going to get to those, but I do have good things. And most people, when you can focus on that, do have good things going.
I just saw a thing yesterday, and I don't remember where I saw it, so I'd screw it up if I even tried. But it was like, one of the secrets to life is being happy with what you already have, which sounds so like cliche, right? But it was like, he was like, do you literally know that 100 years from right now in the past, like 100 years ago, like nobody had a hot shower.
Yeah.
Like, like nobody even had like you live a life today of like royalty, right? Like all the kings and all the queens that have ever lived never had like air conditioning.
Correct.
Or a hot shower. So I think it's easy to reframe when you really stop.
Yeah.
I think we just get so bogged down in the moment of like, how is this happening to me and why? And oh my gosh. And it's like, we're probably some of the luckiest human beings that have ever been born on the face of the planet.
Yeah, exactly. Longer lifespans and all the things. And
kids aren't dying every day of like,
Yeah, but it's just hard in a world where you're bombarded with all the bad things. And I think of it like you said, as an entrepreneur, I'm only looking at what's wrong. And trying to fix it and trying to get there. And I think one of the best exercises, like I said, start doing was just thinking of the 3 things that are right. And it's super easy because I have amazing wife, amazing daughter. Like I have such good things, great family, good friends. Like you start going down the list, and then all of a sudden your heart gets a little bigger each time you like mention another one and another one, and you're like, okay, so let's put this in perspective. And I think it really helped me frame the other part of that. Wasn't that it fixed it? Definitely doesn't fix it. But it helps frame it and helps put you in a mind frame that really helps you attack whatever you want from there.
And if you really want to get down to it, I would think you go to like an old folks home, and you don't even have to go there physically, go there mentally. And this is it, your mental capacities and your physical capacities. And then all you got to do now is have one friend or one relationship, right? Yeah. But if you are mentally sound and physically sound, like every single person in an old folks home right now will tell you that like those ships have sailed. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like if
they trade you for it today.
Cognitively, if you were in your prime or close there too, and physically, if you just if all your joints move and your neck turns and all your things, and you can get up and down out of a chair, like right, like if you have your physicality and you have your mental cognitive, and then you have like a relationship, you're doing better than like 99% of the people towards the end of their life.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Well, on that note, man, always love rapping with you.
I do too.
But hey, if you guys are out there and you are listening and you're getting anything out of these podcasts, we just want you guys to know that we really appreciate you and we thank you for tuning in. And if you have not yet liked or subscribed, please do so. It is free to subscribe, by the way. And tell a friend or share an episode or a clip. Really appreciate it. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.